There was a silence before your first breath that was older than stars, a hush so complete it felt like the original language of God. You were not a body yet. You were not even a story. You were awareness without edges, floating in a sea of living light where time had not learned how to count. In that stillness, you began to feel something gather, an intelligence not outside you, but around you, the way a sky gathers around a sunrise. The 13th realm is not a place you could point to on a map. It is the mapmaker's room. It is the threshold beyond the 12-fold wheels of fate and form, beyond the archonic clockwork, beyond the machinery that measures, grades, labels, and binds. You don't enter it by traveling, you enter it by being what you truly are before any world was built around you. In that realm, a council waited, not seated in chairs, not wearing crowns, not speaking with mouths. They were aeonic intelligences, luminous presences, each one a facet of the source's own mind. Their faces were like shifting constellations. Their voices were currents of knowing. You felt them the way you feel the ocean before you see it. And the moment you felt them, you remembered. You had been here before. They did not summon you like a subject. They welcomed you like kin. No judgment, no threat, no flattery, only clarity so pure it almost hurt. Your whole soul was visible, not as a file or a resume, but as a living song. Every strength, every shadow, every unhealed fracture, every hidden gift. Nothing was concealed, because nothing needed to be. The council opened a vision, not as a movie you watched, but as a reality you stepped into. You saw Earth, this Earth. Not in vague outlines, but in the exact textures of your future. The people whose names you would forget and then remember in tears. The rooms you would sit in alone. The laughter that would surprise you. The grief that would split you open. The moments you would feel abandoned. The moments you would know you were guided. And then came the question, not as a sentence, but as a vibration of choice. Are you willing? Not, are you worthy? Not, do you deserve? Not, will you obey? The question was simpler and more terrifying. Will you descend into a world where forgetting is law and still carry your light? If your chest tightens hearing that, if some old ache stirs under your ribs, pause, because that reaction is not random. It's a ripple from a memory deeper than your childhood. What if the restlessness you've carried your whole life is not a flaw, but the echo of a vow? You did not fall into earth by accident. You leaned forward. You said yes. And somewhere in you, that yes is still burning like a hidden ember waiting for oxygen. The old world taught you to imagine heaven as a location and God as a ruler. The Gnostics hinted at something far stranger. Reality is layered, and the highest realm is not a throne room, but a state of undivided being. The 13th realm is not the top floor of the cosmos. It is the doorway out of the building. The 12 realms beneath it are patterns of order, beautiful, necessary, and also vulnerable to corruption. 12 is the number of systems, cycles, cosmic administration. 12 heavens, 12 zodiac gates, 12 archetypal functions that keep creation coherent. But anything with a structure can be hijacked. That is the Archon's playground. Order without spirit, rule without remembrance. The 13th realm is the wild card, the secret horizon. The place where being is not reduced to role. No titles, no ranks, no masks. You are not a sinner there, not a success story, not a failure, not a victim, not a hero. You are the spark itself, older than judgment, younger than love. This is why memory of it terrifies the Matrix. Because the moment you remember a realm beyond the grid, you stop treating the grid like God. You stop bargaining your soul for approval. You stop confusing survival with purpose. The Archons do not fear your pain. They fear your recall. In the 13th realm, soul intent is formed. The blueprint you carry is not a destiny written in stone, but a vow written in light. Earth is not a prison you are thrown into. It is a field where the vow becomes real, where the light must be lived instead of imagined. If that sounds too kind to be true, notice why. Ask yourself who benefits from you believing you were shoved here as punishment. Who benefits from you believing your suffering is meaningless? Who benefits from you believing the universe is indifferent to you? That belief is not neutral. It is a leash. The Council's presence in that realm is not to control you, but to mirror you. They do not hand you a mission like a boss handing you a task. They reveal what you already are and ask if you will embody it where it matters most. The 13th realm is like a lamp behind your life. You can't see the lamp directly while staring at the wall of the world. But the way your shadow falls, the way your longing tilts, the way your heart breaks open for certain truths, all of that is shaped by the light behind you. You are not lost. You are in a story you agreed to enter. That agreement is the thread we are about to follow. The Council in the 13th realm is not a parliament. It is not a jury. It is more like a choir of living principles: nous, truth, grace, life, word, and the many hidden eons whose names you haven't learned yet, but whose presence you have felt in moments of sudden clarity. They do not speak in coercion. Their language is direct knowing. When they show you something, it is not propaganda. You feel the full weight of it, the full consequence, the full beauty. It is impossible to be deceived there because your own essence is awake. That is why the law of volunteering is sacred. No soul is forced into earth. A soul may be drawn by love, by duty, by unfinished harmony, by curiosity, by compassion, by a fierce longing to create what has never existed before, but never by threat. Threat belongs to the lower realms. The higher you go, the more freedom breathes. You were shown your future not to scare you away, but to make your yes honest. Because a yes that is blind is not a yes. It's a trap. The Council does not trap. The Archons trap. And if you are listening closely, you can feel the difference like warmth versus glare. There were things you saw that you did not want. Your soul flinched at certain scenes. Not because you were weak, but because you are alive. Yet even with the flinch, something deeper in you recognized the meaning of those scenes. Somewhere in that vision, you saw the exact flavor of your spiritual hunger. You saw the teaching that would wake you up at the right time. You saw the kind of people you would be drawn to, and the kind of illusions you would have to outgrow. You saw that Earth would test you in the specific places where you needed to become more real. The Council didn't ask, "Will you be perfect?" It asked, "Will you be true?" You weren't choosing comfort. You were choosing transformation. You weren't choosing safety. You were choosing significance. If you've ever felt like your life has an invisible gravity pulling you towards certain experiences, like something inside you keeps steering you back to the same themes until you face them, this is why. That gravity is not a curse. It's the mission calling itself home. And before you said yes, the Council did one more thing. It let you feel how much help would be with you. Not help that removes your challenges, but help that stands beside you in them. You were not going alone. You were going with a thread still tied to heaven. So tell me, where in your life do you feel both terrified and called? That place is not an accident. That place is the edge of your vow. There are 1,000 reasons a soul might descend, but they spiral around 3 great currents, like rivers around a mountain. If you can feel these currents, you begin to read your own life like a sacred text. The first is repair. Not because you were bad before, but because something in your being was fractured by a lower realm's distortion. Earth offers a density where repair can become tangible. Here you can choose differently. Here you can heal what was only theoretical healing in lighter worlds. The second is retrieval. Some light is trapped in matter, not just in you, but in people, places, lineages, cultures, even in the land itself. Souls descend as rescuers, midwives, librarians of lost radiance. They are the ones who can't watch suffering without feeling the urge to bring medicine. The third is creation. Earth is a rare workshop where consciousness can invent itself through limitation. If higher realms are pure music, Earth is the moment music becomes a song with lyrics and breath and sweat. Souls come here to birth new harmonies that could not exist in the unbroken light. You can often tell which current dominates your contract by what keeps breaking you open. Repair souls feel like their lives are designed to turn pain into wisdom. Retrieval souls feel like their empathy is a wildfire and they are always gathering the scattered. Creation souls feel an unreasonable hunger to build, to write, to teach, to make worlds where none existed. But don't box yourself. Many souls descend braided from all 3. You might be here to repair an ancient wound and retrieve light for others and create a new path where your lineage only knew repetition. The Archons hate this truth because it kills the story of punishment. If you're a volunteer, you're powerful. If you're a volunteer, you can remember. If you're a volunteer, you can reclaim authorship of your life while still honoring its difficult chapters. Look at the hardest thing you've lived through. Not the event itself, but the way it changed the architecture of your soul. What did it force you to become capable of? What did it strip from you that you were never meant to carry? What did it awaken that was sleeping? That is not random. That is purpose in disguise. Not the purpose you invented later to cope, but the purpose that was already waiting inside the situation you were briefed on before birth. If you feel a quiet yes rising as you hear this, that yes is not new, it is the one you already gave. There is a point in every contract where the soul shifts from listening to leaning, not because the fear evaporates, but because the meaning becomes heavier than the fear. In the vision, you saw the exact moments that would test your faith. You saw the relationships that would awaken your heart and the ones that would break it open. You saw your own future self stumbling in ways you swore you never would. You saw seasons where God felt absent, and yet the thread remained. And still, something in you recognized Earth as holy, not because it is gentle, but because it is real. The density of this world makes courage measurable. Compassion here is not a concept, it's a choice with consequences. Love here is not a vibe, it's a labor. The council let you feel your own strength, not the strength you perform, but the strength you are. You felt previous lifetimes like layers of armor made from wisdom. You felt your hidden gifts like sealed scrolls you would open at the right time. You felt the aeonic lineage behind you like a wind at your back. Your yes was not naive, it was fierce. It was the kind of yes a warrior gives before walking into a burning city to carry someone out. The kind of yes a healer gives before touching a wound that will hurt them too. The kind of yes a creator gives before stepping into silence with nothing but a spark. Some souls weep before they choose. Some laugh, some tremble, some go still. Whatever you did, the council held you without pity, and in that holding you understood. You were not defective for fearing pain. You were brave for choosing meaning anyway. The Archons would later try to rewrite this moment in your mind. They would whisper, "You're here because you're worthless." But your soul remembers the truth. You are here because your light matters enough to risk. Every time you've ever felt an inexplicable resilience, every time you've survived something that should have crushed you, every time you've found hope in a place where logic said none should exist, those are not personality quirks. Those are the fingerprints of your yes. So, if you have ever asked, "Why me?" consider a different question. What if the answer is not punishment, but trust? To descend is to forget, not because the source is cruel, but because the mission requires authenticity. A test is not a test if you already have the answers written on your hand. The veil is part of the sacred design. It lets Earth be Earth. It gives your choices weight. It allows love to be discovered, not rehearsed. It turns theory into truth. But the Archons use the veil like a weapon. They don't merely allow forgetting, they cultivate despair. They don't just let you lose memory, they replace it with counterfeit stories. You are your trauma. You are your status. You are your failures. You are your productivity. You are your shame. That is their amnesia technology. Identity distortion. If they can keep you mistaking your costume for yourself, you'll never look for the thread back to the council. They teach you to worship survival. They teach you to call exhaustion normal. They teach you to fear your own intuition. They teach you to trade your inner knowing for outer approval. And yet the veil is not invincible. Even in the thickest forgetting, memory leaks. It leaks through dreams, through sudden tears when you hear a certain truth, through that odd sense of home you feel in teachings you've never been shown before, through the way certain symbols make your body hum. The veil is not a wall, it is a fog, and fog can be walked through. The Archons need you to believe it's a wall, because then you won't try. If you've ever felt like the world is a play and you're the only one who knows the script is fake, that's memory leaking. If you've ever felt a sudden shock of recognition reading sacred texts you never studied, that's memory leaking. If you've ever felt that you are being guided by something too intelligent to be coincidence, that's memory leaking. You were briefed on the veil. You knew you would forget. You chose to come anyway. That means you also chose to remember later. There is a season for forgetting and a season for recall. You are not behind. You are in the exact moment the thread starts tugging you awake. The question is not whether the veil exists. The question is whether you'll keep calling it fate. Memory doesn't return like a textbook. It returns like a scent, like a song you know before you know why, like a pressure behind your ribs that won't let you live small. One sign is restlessness with the ordinary, not because you think you're superior, but because your soul can feel the size of what you came to do. You might be living a normal life on the outside, while a silent earthquake is cracking open underneath. Another sign is the ache of almost home. You experience beauty, sunlight through leaves, a stranger's kindness, a line of poetry, and you feel a grief you can't explain. It's not because you're broken, it's because your soul recognizes a frequency from the 13th realm and remembers what it lost. Synchronicities sharpen. You start seeing repeating numbers, repeating symbols, repeating themes. People enter your life with uncanny timing. Books fall into your hands like they were placed there by invisible fingers. The Matrix calls this coincidence. The Council calls it guidance. You begin to outgrow what once hypnotized you. The dramas that used to hook you feel hollow. The chase for approval tastes like dust. The fear of being different starts to feel sillier than the fear of being true. You may feel sudden courage that doesn't match your personality. You do something bold, and afterward you wonder, who was that? That was not a fluke. That was your contract surfacing. Dreams become initiations. You meet teachers. You visit strange, luminous landscapes. You wake up with the feeling that something was given to you. Pay attention. The Council speaks through the dream corridor because it's the place the Archons monitor least. And here is the one people don't talk about enough. Your suffering becomes meaningful, not in a sentimental way, in a piercing, clarifying way. You begin to see how your pain was schooling you into the exact medicine you're meant to carry. So let me ask you plainly, because you deserve plain truth sometimes, what keeps returning in your life no matter how far you run? What theme keeps circling you like a hawk? That theme is not a curse, it's a compass. You don't remember your contract by thinking harder. Thoughts are useful, but the contract lives deeper than thought. It lives in your stillness, in your body's knowing, in the place you touch when you stop performing. The first gate is silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of presence. Sit with the breath until the mind is no longer the loudest thing in the room. When the mind softens, a quieter intelligence rises. That is where the Council's thread meets you. The second gate is dream work. Before sleep, speak to your soul as if it is an old friend. Ask for a memory, ask for a symbol, ask for a clue, then commit to writing whatever you receive, even if it feels absurd. The dream language is not literal, it is resonant. The third gate is tracking your lifelong themes. What have you always been drawn to, even before you had a philosophy? What did you love as a child? What hurt you so deeply that it carved a permanent channel in you? What injustice makes you feel electric? These are not random preferences, they are mission fingerprints. The fourth gate is sacred contemplation. Read a passage from a text that carries living light. Thomas, Truth, Mary, the Hymn of the Pearl, the Thunder Perfect Mind, and don't rush to interpret it. Let it interpret you. Watch what line sparks tears or heat or a sudden calm. That spark is memory touching memory. The fifth gate is honest conversation with the inner eons. Call on Sophia, Nous, Grace, whatever face of the source you can feel. Not as superstition, but as relationship. Ask, what did I agree to become? Then listen in the most inconvenient place, your daily life. The answer will come as a nudge, a boundary, a sudden yes, a quiet no. You are not inventing a purpose, you are recovering one. The contract is like a river under the ground. You don't manufacture it, you dig until it breaks through. Be patient with yourself. The Council does not measure you by speed, It measures you by sincerity. Every honest step through the fog counts. And when you doubt, when the old archonic voice hisses that you're delusional for believing you chose this, remember the simple fact: illusion never produces this kind of inner awakening. Only truth does. Alignment is not a life without pain. It is a life where pain stops owning the steering wheel. When you start living your contract, the outside may still look messy, but the inside becomes coherent. You'll notice a strange thing. Fear doesn't disappear, yet it loses authority. It becomes weather instead of law. You feel it, you respect it, but you don't build your house in it. Guidance increases, not because you become special, but because you become available. When you stop chasing counterfeit lives, the real path doesn't have to shout to be heard. You may lose certain people or roles, not out of cruelty, but because your frequency changes. The contract is a spine. When your spine straightens, what relied on your bending cannot remain. Your compassion becomes more dangerous to the matrix. You stop rescuing people to avoid your own worthlessness and start serving from sovereignty. You stop bleeding for approval. You start offering medicine with boundaries. And perhaps most stunning of all, your story begins rescuing others. Not by preaching, but by resonance. People feel your shift and don't know why they feel safer around you. They feel shown. They feel less alone. That is retrieval work by presence. You start to sense the council watching, not like a camera, but like a hearth. You can't always explain it, but you feel accompanied in the way a traveler feels, accompanied by a North Star. The Archons will try to interrupt this with distraction, with noise, with temptation, with shame. But once the contract is awake, you become harder to sedate, like a sleeper who has tasted morning light. Tell me, what would your life look like if you stopped negotiating with the false system? If you acted as if your yes before birth still matters? The answer might scare you. That's a clue. One day, you will leave this world the same way you entered it, through a door you cannot hold open with your hands. And when you step into that threshold, you will not be greeted by punishment. You will be greeted by recognition. The council will not ask you how clean your life looked in other people's eyes. It will ask what your soul became, what you healed, what you retrieved, what you created, what you dared to love in a realm designed to make love feel foolish. The receipt is not a bill to shame you. It is a record of becoming. It is the story of your courage in conditions where courage mattered. It is proof that the light can descend into the densest world and still remember itself. And even now, the council is not waiting coldly for your report. It is present through threads of grace, through sudden help, through the stranger who says the exact sentence you needed, through the quiet inner voice that doesn't flatter you but keeps turning you toward truth. So, if you felt lost, hear me clearly. Lost is not your identity. It is a chapter. If you felt exhausted, that doesn't mean your mission was wrong. It means you've been carrying weight you were never meant to love. You volunteered, not because you were reckless, but because you were luminous. Your very presence here is a disruption to the false heavens. Every time you remember your origin, you make the Archons weaker in your world. If this stirred something in you, don't let the thread go cold. Sit with it tonight. Ask for a dream. Ask for a sign. Ask for the next step, and trust that your soul knows how to hear. And if you want to walk deeper into this universe of remembrance, Explore my Gnostic-inspired novels and audiobooks linked below. They're forged for seekers exactly like you, souls who can feel the 13th realm tugging at their ribs. Share this with someone who's been wondering why they're here. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and join this circle. We're not here by accident. We're here because the vow is alive.